So usually to control a company, you'd say you want to own 50% or more of the shares. The reason you want to control a company, different reasons, but say you need to get shareholder approval for something. So we mentioned, for example, to be able to create new shares in a company, you have to ask the shareholders in the company for approval of that. Like you have to say, hey, are you guys okay? Is everyone okay? Or is the majority okay with me creating some new shares in a company? Because remember, if you create new shares and if you just gave it away to anyone, you could be essentially not looking in the best interest of the shareholders. So you need to be able to, the majority of the company needs to say, hey, we think this is the best thing. We will approve this or we will deny this. So one of the benefits of controlling the company is that when there's a, like, for example, when Separate had his AGM this year, because Musson already control the company, they knew if they propose a vote or they ask shareholders for something, they know it's going to go through. Like you still have to do the process of having a shareholder meeting, asking it and whatever. But at the end of the day, if you control the company because you own 50% or more, whatever you want to do with the company will happen.
Yeah.
So
Whatever says goes, head honcho.
yeah. So what this document was showing you, I'm showing on my screen here, this table here, is that you seeing the Mosan group of companies that we mentioned before. They all of these different companies, essentially the MIL Mosan Investments Limited, Mosan Jamaica Limited, Facey Group Limited, Stony Hill Capital, and this one Perseverance Limited. All of these are essentially a part of the Mosan group or affiliated. So they're all like working together. So it's almost like they're, they're not technically one company, they're essentially functioning almost like that. And so what happened is that MIL, which is Muscle Investments Limited, they bought a few more shares. They were just under the 50% before. But when someone is now controlling the company, so say the largest shareholder owned 40% of the company, and then that shareholder now buys 10%, so they now own 50%. They are now the controlling shareholder of the company, or they control the company. The Jamaica Stock Exchange has rules that say, okay, if a new shareholder or if a person is now gaining control of a company, you have to make an offer to, and all shareholders should be able to participate in the offer if they want to buy some of their shares. You don't necessarily have to buy all of them, because if you bought all of them, you'd delist the company or whatever. But if you want to keep the company listed, and to keep the company listed, you have to essentially at least 20% has to be to the public. Yeah. So essentially, because they always had the option technically to just buy, because I think they only had to buy 1,000 shares. The document says
It was a
and
tiny
it was
amount.
a very small amount. So it's like it wasn't like I don't think that it wasn't by accident. Yeah, see it here, showing on screen. It says Musson acquired 1,600 shares, and now that they bought that 1,000 shares, they now own 50% of the company. They now control the company, and notice it's 50% exactly. So they now have to make an offer, which is the takeover bid, to the other shareholders to buy some of their shares, and they did that. So they wanted to buy up to just under 14 million shares, which works out at the price they were offering at the time. I think it was $78. Works out about a billion Jamaican if everybody was to take up the offer. So I was tying this with the acquisition. So if they're going to issue shares to another person to say buy their company, what they may be scared of, because what can sometimes happen is that they're maybe scared that someone could then try to go for control of the company. So maybe it said, okay, let's assert our dominance in the company, show that we have control, and then to maybe fight off anyone else. Because suppose, it would have probably been hard, but imagine you own. Trying to think of an example. So say you are the largest shareholder, you own 20% of the company,
Yeah.
and then you issued some shares to someone, and that person now owns 15% of the company. What if that person were to start buying up more shares gradually, and they move from the 15%, and then they go to the 18%, 20%, and maybe they even buy some from other shareholders who earn 10%, 10%. They eventually could control your company, and maybe you didn't want that. So I guess I think that was probably why they did that. They were saying, hey, we want our territory dominance. We want to get control, because they always essentially could have pushed that button if they wanted to. And now they control the company to, possibly face word off anyone else that may want to, that they may have to let into the company to grow the business.
Hmm.